Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are a young woman, perhaps 19, maybe 22. You live in a small, smoky cottage at the edge of a medieval village. The walls are made of mud and wattle. The roof leaks when it rains. There's no glass on the windows, only cloth and hope. The cold creeps in at night. The floor is dirt. And the air? Always filled with smoke from the central hearth. Your dress is handmade, woolen, rough against your skin. You have one pair of shoes. If you're lucky, you haven't bathed in a week. You likely never will again, at least not properly. But today something feels different. You're exhausted, not just from work, but deep in your bones. You vomited this morning, and the smell of boiling onions, your only food, makes you nauseous. Your breasts ache. Your stomach flutters. You're late, and that can only mean one thing. Pregnant. The word doesn't sound like joy. Not here. Not now. It sounds like fear. Like burden. Like danger. You don't run to tell anyone. There's no joyous announcement. There's no ultrasound, no baby shower, no pink or blue. There's only silence. Because pregnancy in your world isn't just a private matter. It's a public concern. A moral judgment. A whisper in the market. A stare from the priest. A risk to your very life. If you were married, you might be met with brief approval. A nod from your husband. Perhaps he even smiles for a moment, thinking of a son to help in the fields. But he won't help you more. Your duties remain unchanged. You'll still need dough. You'll still carry firewood. You'll still bleed from the same cracked fingers. And if you are not married, God help you, your body will be viewed as shameful. Your belly a crime scene. You may be dragged to church, forced to confess in front of others. Beaten, banished, even branded. No one will ask what happened to you. No one will ask if you were taken advantage of. They will only ask, whose is it? And how dare you? But regardless of your status, your journey has begun. Alone. Inside your own body, a battle begins. And there's no doctor to call. No nurse to ask. No books to read. You don't know what's normal. What's dangerous. What's coming. You only know that your mother once said, every baby takes something from its mother, sometimes everything. You've seen it with your own eyes. The woman 2 cottages down. She bled for days and was gone. Her child now raised by her sister. No one cried. No one asked why. They simply said, God's will. In the coming days, you will try to hide the changes. Wrap your apron tighter. Walk a little slower. But the women notice. They always do. A raised eyebrow. A whispered warning. Don't eat rabbit. It brings misfortune. Sleep on your left side or the child will be a demon. Drink ash water, it cleanses the womb. You nod. You smile. But you wonder. Is any of it true? No one really knows. Not the midwife, not the priest, not the old man who talks to crows. There is no science. Only stories. Superstition fills the space where knowledge should be. You start to feel your body change. Your breasts grow tender. Your hips ache. You wake up in the night with sharp pains, unsure if they're normal or a warning. But you cannot rest, because you must rise with the sun. And no one will let you rest just because you feel strange. Pregnancy is not treated like a sacred time. It is treated like a phase of inconvenience, a detour, a duty. The village elder says, women were made for this. But even the goats are treated more gently when they're pregnant. You are expected to endure, without complaint, without tears, without weakness. And so you push forward, through the fields, through the chores, through the sickness. You pray silently that the child is healthy, that it survives, that you survive, because you've heard stories, horrible stories, about blood that doesn't stop flowing, about children born blue and quiet, about women buried in shallow graves with newborns still in their arms. You try not to think of these, but they creep in. At night, when the cottage goes quiet, when the fire dims, when you feel the flutter in your belly and wonder if that's life or just gas. You remember your grandmother. She had 12 children. Only 5 lived past their first year. She never spoke of the others. She just stared into the fire, and sometimes hummed to herself softly as if singing to ghosts. You asked her once what childbirth felt like. She said, like walking through a door, not knowing if it will open to heaven or hell. You didn't understand then, but you do now. With every passing day, as your body tightens, and your future narrows, and your breath gets shorter, you walk, you work, you wait. You feel your child grow. Your belly expands. Some days it feels like a miracle. Other days it feels like a punishment. The priest says children are blessings. But he doesn't bleed. He doesn't tear. He doesn't die in the attempt to bring them forth. He just blesses the water and warns you not to eat cheese during full moon because it might twist the child. You smile politely, then vomit behind the barn. Your days blur into routine. Your pain becomes background noise. Your fear becomes habit. And still, no one asks how you are. They ask, is it moving? Do you think it's a boy? Will you name it after your husband's father? They do not ask if you're sleeping, or eating, or crying yourself to sleep because you heard a hawk call at midnight and someone said that's an omen. They do not ask if your back aches so badly you can barely sit. They do not ask if you are afraid, because that is assumed, and therefore ignored. In your village, fear is a thread that runs through every woman. So common, it becomes invisible. And as the weeks pass, you begin to dream, sometimes of holding your child, wrapped in wool, safe in your arms, other times of bleeding out in silence, of no one coming, of cold hands, of a baby that never cries. You wake up sweating, shaking, and alone, because your husband sleeps like a rock, and you are a river, always moving, always afraid to overflow. Still, you press on. You count days by moonlight. You measure kicks with breath. And when someone asks how far along you are, you don't say weeks. You say things like, since the barley harvest, since the first frost, since the cow died. Time here is measured by events, not by science, not by certainty, only rhythm, the rhythm of the land, and the rhythm of your womb. Then, one morning, the air smells different. Your body feels heavier. Your back seizes. And you know, it's coming. Your time. Your test. Your turn at the edge of life and death. You sit on the edge of your bed, hold your belly, and whisper to the child inside, please stay. Please, don't take me with you. Because no one knows what will happen. Not even you. You just hope. Hope the midwife makes it in time. Hope the bleeding stops. Hope the breath begins. This is how pregnancy begins. In a medieval village, not with celebration, but with silence. Not with balloons and gifts, but with worry and work. It begins with nausea and ends. Well, that part comes later. But for now you sit, and you wait, and you carry not just a child, but history, pain, courage. You are a woman in the Middle Ages, and your story is just beginning. Your belly is growing, slowly but surely. Each week brings something new, something unfamiliar. A pull in your back, a sudden cramp in your thigh. Moments where you stand too quickly and the world spins. But you don't know why. There are no books, no midwife with real answers, no kind doctor to explain that your blood is working harder, that your ligaments are loosening, that your body is building a whole new life from bread crusts and cabbage water. All you know is that everything hurts. Your breasts ache when you wake up. Your feet throb before the sun even rises. Sometimes your gums bleed when you chew, but no one notices. No one asks. And deep down, you're not even sure this is unusual, because no one talks about it. Pain is not a symptom. It is a condition of being alive, especially if you are a woman. The food you eat does not help. It was never designed to. You eat to survive, not to thrive. Some days, black bread. Other days, onion broth. Maybe a handful of beans. A slice of dried turnip. If you're lucky, just maybe a small egg. No meat. No fruit. No milk. There are no cravings to satisfy. Only emptiness to ignore. Your child grows, pulling nutrients from a body already starving. And you feel it. The slow erosion of your strength. The weakness in your limbs. The dizzy spells that come when you bend down too fast. You hide it, because no one wants to hear about tiredness. Everyone is tired. You just carry yours differently. The village doesn't understand what's happening inside of you, but that doesn't stop them from having opinions. Old women come to you with all kinds of advice. Tie a red string around your ankle. Rub lard on your belly to prevent a cursed child. Don't look into mirrors, they steal your baby's soul. You listen. You nod. You let them press herbs into your hands. But you still wake every night. Sweaty, sore, and scared. Because no charm or chant can ease the reality of what your body is doing. There are moments of confusion. Moments when your belly goes hard and tight. You think, is it starting? Is it wrong? You don't know the difference between practice and labor, between a gas pain and a signal. There's no one to guide you. The midwife lives 2 miles away and she has no horse. If she's busy, you wait. If she's tired, you wait. And if she's sick, Well, you hope your aunt remembers how to boil water. You begin to notice other things too. Your skin itches. Your joints swell. Your nails chip more easily. Sometimes your face flushes for no reason. Sometimes you cry when the bread burns. Or when a bird flies into the window. Your husband doesn't understand. He tells you to rest, but also expects the floor to be clean. You feel like two people. One who's carrying life, and one who's carrying expectation. And both are heavier by the day. You try to sleep more, but the bed is made of straw and creaks with every breath. Your back cannot find comfort. Your bladder wakes you at least twice. There is no such thing as a quiet night. Only roosters, coughing neighbors, and creaking rafters. And in the silence, your thoughts grow louder. What if something goes wrong? What if the baby doesn't move tomorrow? What if? You pray, but even your prayers feel tired now. Your body changes in ways you can't explain. Your balance is off. You bump into doorways. You drop things. Sometimes you laugh and immediately feel a sharp pain in your pelvis. And then there are the moments of stillness, where your hands rest on your belly, and you feel the baby move. A flutter, a kick, a stretch. Those moments are different, sacred almost, even in a world that doesn't care. You do. You feel love, not loud or grand, but deep, quiet, like a well beneath a frozen field. Still, even love cannot shield you from the fear, because you've heard the stories. The woman who carried twins and bled before the harvest. The mother who lost her child in the second month, but her belly kept growing. The stillborn baby delivered in silence. The husband who never looked his wife in the eyes again. You've seen what it does to a woman. How it hollows her. How it makes her walk a little slower, speak a little softer. How she hums but never sings. And you wonder, will that be you? As your belly grows, the village notices. They comment, he looks big already. She's carrying high. It must be a girl. You're rounder than you should be. Be careful. You're pale. Are you sure it's not twins? They speak like they know, but they don't know. They've just seen pain, seen loss, and now they're guessing. And every comment sits in your chest like a stone. You stop eating at the table because it's hard to sit. Your legs cramp when you squat. Your thighs rub raw under your woolen dress. Even breathing feels labored. But no one offers you a cushion. No one says, let me. No one says, rest. You are not ill. You are pregnant. And that is seen as ordinary. But to you, feels extraordinary, terrifying, transformative, and completely invisible. Your hands swell. Your ankles vanish. You feel heat that others don't. You itch in places you can't scratch in public. Your nipples leak tiny drops of clear fluid. You think it's a sign of readiness, or a warning, but no one explains it. So you wipe it quietly and say nothing. Because here, a woman's body is a thing to be endured, not understood, not cherished, not protected, just endured. And even in all of this, you keep going. You chop onions with swollen fingers. You carry buckets with aching wrists. You sweep floors with a belly that knocks into furniture. And you whisper apologies to the child inside for every sharp breath, every skipped meal, every step that jostled them. You wonder, do they feel your sorrow? Do they hear your thoughts? Will they understand one day how hard it was to carry them? You try to be hopeful. You talk to your belly in the early morning, when the fire is just embers and no one else is awake. You say things like, I hope you have my nose. I hope you are kind. I hope the world is better for you. You tell stories to the walls, humming songs you half remember from your own mother. You prepare little things, a blanket woven from old cloth, a rattle made from a dried gourd, a name whispered into the night, carried only by the smoke from the chimney. And through it all, your body keeps changing, expanding, stretching, breaking, healing, without rest, without explanation. You become something both powerful and fragile, both sacred and forgotten. Because in this world, pregnancy is not a celebration. It is a preparation for pain, for labor, for loss, or if you're lucky, for love. And as the moon waxes and wanes, as your belly swells beneath the weight of silence, you hold on to the one truth no one can take from you. This child is coming. And whether the world sees you or not, you are becoming a mother, in the oldest, rawest way possible, with nothing but your body and your will.
Morning comes not with birdsong, but with frost on the inside of your window. The fire has gone out. The cold creeps in. You pull your wool shawl tighter and push your body upright. Your back already aches. Your belly feels heavy, pulled downward like a sack of stones tied to your waist. But you rise. Because in this world, pregnancy is not rest. It is responsibility with extra weight. There are mouths to feed, ashes to scrape, water to fetch, wood to split, and no one will do it for you. You step into icy shoes with cracked soles. Your breath fogs in the morning air as you walk to the well. Your fingers are stiff with cold. The bucket is heavy. Heavier now, because you are heavier. With every step, your joints protest. But you say nothing. There is no time for weakness. You are a woman, and that means you carry the world, whether you're carrying life or not. By midday, you are kneeling beside the hearth, scrubbing a pot that hasn't come clean in weeks. Your knees throb. Your arms tremble. The baby kicks, impatient, like it too is tired of this. You pause. Breathe. Press your hand against your belly. Then go back to scrubbing. Because dinner won't make itself. And your husband will be home soon. No one says, "Let me do that." No one says, "You should rest." The midwife may have told you to take it easy. But she doesn't live here. She doesn't see the mud that tracks in from the door. She doesn't hear the baby crying in the other room. She doesn't know that the cow got loose this morning, and someone had to catch it. So you keep moving. You carry water. You chop onions. You hang linens on a frayed rope, even as your back threatens to give way. You bend. You lift. You climb. You knead. Your body is a tool, and tools do not get to complain. Sometimes your vision blurs. You see white, then black. You blink and steady yourself against the doorframe. You swallow hard, and you go on, because your child needs you. Your home needs you. And in this world, even pain has to wait its turn. Afternoon sunlight spills through the cracked shutters. You sit down for a moment. Just one. Your ankles are swollen. Your wrists ache. Your hips pulse in dull, rhythmic waves. You press your palms into your legs. Close your eyes. And for a moment, you imagine a world where pregnancy means protection. Where someone brings you warm tea. Where someone says, "You've done enough." But here, no one says that. So you open your eyes and get back up. The days blend into one another. One chore after another. 1 week closer to birth. Your clothes grow tighter. You're breathing heavier. Your skin itches where it stretches. You've begun tucking rags into your bodice to cushion your breasts. They ache at random, sometimes even leak. You hide it quickly, because shame is faster than sympathy. You wish, just once, someone would look at you and see, not just a body in motion, but a soul under strain. You speak less. Your words become sighs, grunts, small apologies for needing to sit down, for spilling flour, for being slower than usual. You wonder if you've become invisible, or worse, a burden. There is no celebration here, no soft music, no warm hands on your belly, only questions. Will it be a boy? When are you due? Can you still carry that? You nod. You lie. You carry it all. The worst moments come in the evening, when the work is done, but the pain settles in. Your back is a battlefield. Your feet feel twice their size. You lower yourself onto a bench and feel the weight of the day crush your ribs. And no one sees this, because they're busy, or tired, or just used to it. Even you are used to it. 1731 to 1930. The fire dies down. You sweep the floor in silence. Each sweep is slower than the last. You hum to keep from crying. You whisper to the child inside. Just a few more days. Just a little longer. The baby shifts. It's listening. Maybe it understands. Maybe it forgives you for the harshness of the world it's about to enter. Sometimes your body gives you warnings. Sharp cramps. Sudden pressure. A strange wetness that disappears just as quickly. You pause. You wait. You listen to your own breath. You wonder if it's starting. But then, it passes. And you return to the task at hand. Because you always return. Even if labor is knocking, you still have dishes to clean. 2131 to 2330. You once heard a story. A woman gave birth while grinding flour. The baby slipped out onto the cold floor. She wrapped it in a sack and kept grinding. You didn't believe it. Until now. Now, you understand how that might happen. Not because she was strong. Not because she didn't care. But because the world gave her no other option. She ground the flour. Because no one else would. Because the bread had to be made. Because life doesn't pause for birth. 2331, 25:30. You begin to move differently. Your feet shuffle. Your balance shifts. Your center of gravity is no longer your own. You're not sure where your body ends and your burden begins. Everything blurs. You carry not just your child, but the silence of centuries, the expectation of survival, the weight of every woman who came before you and never got to rest. 25:31, 27:30. And yet, despite everything, you still try to smile. You still braid your hair in the morning. You still hum lullabies as you knead dough. You still tuck flowers into the windowsill when you sweep. Because even in a life this hard, you find moments of beauty, tiny rebellions against exhaustion, proof that you are still human, still whole, still a here. 27:31, 30:00. As the days grow shorter, you feel it coming, the stillness before the storm, the knowing that soon you will not be able to sweep or fetch or grind. Soon you will lay down your work, not because someone gave you permission, but because your body will demand it. And when that time comes, you'll be ready, not because you were pampered, not because you were taught, but because you worked, you endured, you prepared, you built strength in silence. And when labor knocks, you will answer it, with the hands that chopped wood, the feet that fetched water, the back that bore a village, because that is what women have always done. It begins with a pain you cannot describe, a tightness deep inside you, like the earth pulling inward. Your belly hardens, your breath shortens, and you know, it's time. You sit on the edge of the straw bed, hands gripping the edge of the wood frame, eyes scanning the small room like a prisoner looking for escape. But there is none, only the flicker of the fire, the ache in your back, and the sound of your own heartbeat, pounding in your ears. Someone sends for the midwife. She doesn't arrive quickly. She is old. She walks slowly, and she has been to 4 other births this week, 2 of which did not end well. She enters your cottage without a word. Her face is lined by time, her hands cracked like dry riverbeds. She carries no tools, no scrolls, no medicine. Only a leather pouch filled with herbs, a sharp knife wrapped in cloth, and a candle stub tucked in her sleeve. She nods once. You lie down, and the ritual begins. There is no sterile sheet, no gloves, no warm water waiting, only a basin from the hearth, a rough wool blanket, and the smell of fear. She examines you with bare hands, murmuring words you don't understand. You try not to scream, because screaming is seen as weakness, and you cannot afford to be weak now. Not here. Not now. Not when the line between life and death is this thin. The pain comes in waves, each one stronger than the last. You breathe. You cry. You claw at the bed frame. You bite your lip until it bleeds. The midwife tells you to push. But what does that mean? Your body is already splitting. Your bones feel like they are turning to ash. The world narrows. To pain, to blood, to firelight and shadows. And then there's silence. A terrifying silence. The midwife frowns. Something is wrong. She whispers to your sister, who begins heating more water. You can't hear what they're saying. Your ears are filled with rushing wind. Your legs are numb. You feel like you are floating. They say the baby isn't turning. They press on your belly. Hard. You scream. They push again. You are no longer a person. Just flesh. Just a vessel. And yet, you endure. Because you must. After hours of agony, there is a cry. A single, sharp cry. It cuts through the darkness. A sliver of hope. The midwife lifts the baby in her hands. Bloodied, wrinkled, alive. She nods. Wraps the child in a cloth. Places it beside you. You can't move. You can't even turn your head. But you cry. Because the baby cried. And that is enough. For now. But not all births end like this. You've seen the others. Heard the stories. Of babies born blue and still. Of mothers who bled too long. And never opened their eyes again. Sometimes the cord strangles the child. Sometimes the placenta doesn't come. Sometimes there is just nothing. No reason. No explanation. Only silence. And then a funeral. There are no certificates. No doctors to say what went wrong. Only whispers. She was too young. It was God's will. She must have sinned. The devil was near. Sometimes the midwife is blamed. Sometimes the mother. But never the system. Because there is no system. Only survival. Or not. The midwife is not a healer. She is a witness. She has seen too many deaths. Too many empty cradles. Too many women gasping their last breath as the baby draws its first. Her eyes are tired. Her hands tremble. But she does not speak of it. Because if she stopped, who else would come? If the baby is born dead, they wrap it in linen. They place it in a wooden box, or a basket, or even a drawer. There is no name, no blessing, sometimes not even a burial. The mother is told to rest, to try again, to be grateful she is still alive, as if her soul didn't die, right beside the child. Some women break. They stare at the wall for weeks. They don't speak. They don't eat. Their milk comes in, but the baby is gone. Their breasts ache with fullness, a cruel reminder of what should have been. The village calls it madness, possession, weakness, but it's just grief. Raw, unhealed, unseen. Others bury their sorrow and keep moving. They nurse other children. They return to the fields. They smile at neighbors. They braid their hair again. But at night, they press a hand to their empty belly and remember the weight that is no longer there. Some light a candle. Some keep a scrap of cloth tucked in a chest. Some hum lullabies to no one. Birth, here, is not a celebration. It is a gamble. Each time, you offer your body to fate and hope it chooses mercy. There are no guarantees, no safety nets, only the midwife's hands, the fire's warmth, the strength of your own heart. And if that fails, there is only mourning. Still, women give birth, again and again, because they must, because life depends on it, because lineage is everything. Each child is a seed, a chance, a continuation, and each birth is a battle, a quiet, bloody, sacred war. You survived this one. Your baby is sleeping beside you, breathing shallow breaths. The fire is low. The room is dark. But you are here, and that is everything. You close your eyes and whisper, "Thank you," not to the midwife, not to the sky, but to yourself, because you did this. You endured, and in this place, that is a kind of miracle. There are things no one says aloud, things whispered only by firelight, or at graves. And one of those things is that many women die giving birth. Not just one or two, not once in a while, but often, quietly, predictably. In the village, it's not a tragedy. It's a statistic. It's a season. It's something that simply happens. 1:31 to 3:30. You may hear it in passing. Old Marta's daughter didn't make it. No wailing, no mourning banners, just a glance at the ground, a shrug, and the day goes on. The cow still needs milking, the bread still needs kneading. Life doesn't stop, because death is not unusual here, especially for women who give birth. When a woman dies in labor, there's no ceremony, there's no white cloth, no priest sent at once. Sometimes she is buried the same day, in the same dress she delivered in. No one wants to keep the body in the house. The smell, they say, brings bad spirits. Her name is mentioned once at dinner, and slowly forgotten. But her husband remembers, in his own way, mostly in silence, sometimes in anger, sometimes not at all. If she gave birth to a live baby, he hands it to a relative, a sister, a cousin, a neighbor, and life continues. If the baby also died, the midwife wraps them together in one cloth, and they go into the ground as one. No one calls it injustice. No one says, "This should not happen," because they believe it's natural. They believe it's God's will, or fate, or a curse. They do not ask, "What went wrong?" They ask, "Was the moon full? Did she eat lamb too early? Was she touched by a spirit?" In the absence of medicine, they make sense through myth. There are places in the forest, small clearings, where stones mark shallow graves, not churchyards, not sacred ground, just somewhere quiet, where a baby and mother can rest without being seen. Sometimes a doll is left behind, sometimes a ribbon, sometimes Nothing at all. Because grief has no time. In a world that needs hands. The midwife says nothing. She has seen it too many times. The moment a woman's breath fades, just after the child enters the world, the way her fingers twitch, then go still, the look in her eyes, shock, surrender, release. The midwife does what she must. She closes the eyes, wipes the blood, whispers a name, if the woman was loved, then leaves for her next birth, because someone else is already screaming. And the house where death occurred, it remains still. For days, it smells of smoke, sweat, and silence. No one enters, except the living child, if there is one, and even then, only to feed it, not to comfort it, not to explain, because in this place, loss is part of the rhythm. The fields grow, the women die, the children cry, the wind keeps blowing. If the woman was young, people say, she wasn't strong enough. If she was older, they say, she waited too long. If she had no husband, they say, it was punishment. If she had many children, they say, one too many. But the truth is, no one was safe. Not the rich, not the loved, not even the lucky. Birth was a gamble, and death often won. The other women notice. They carry it, in glances, in silence, in the way they touch their own bellies. When they hear news, they do not cry openly. They do not protest. They simply prepare. Each time they become pregnant, they make peace with the possibility. This might be the end. And still, they go on. You remember when your neighbor died. You were 12. She was 30. Her scream pierced the village at dawn. By nightfall, there was only her husband on the porch, smoking silently. A baby cried from inside. Someone rocked it with tired arms. The next week, he remarried her cousin. The cradle stayed in place. The name on the door didn't change. Life just continued. And now, as you grow closer to your own delivery, that memory returns. Not to haunt, but to warn. You feel it in the way your heart pounds. When the baby kicks too hard. When the cramp doesn't go away. When the midwife is late. You whisper prayers in the dark. You light a candle, even when no one's watching. You wonder if your name will become a whisper, too. You've seen the signs. The blood that comes too soon. The fever after birth. The breath that won't return. You try not to think of it. But how can you not? When you hear owls hooting, and someone says it's a bad omen. When your body aches in ways you can't explain. When a part of you says, this could be it, and no one would stop it, because no one could. Phil, you do not live in fear. You live in readiness, in courage, because you are not weak. You are not cursed. You are not foolish for becoming a mother. You are brave, in ways no one writes down. No songs, no books, just this. You know the cost, and you choose life anyway. In this village, a woman's death in childbirth is not headline or horror. It is history. It is heritage. A grandmother, a sister, a daughter, a name carved in wood, a lullaby left unfinished. But you are still here. Your breath continues. Your heart pounds. And for now, you live. You remember the names. You honor their stories. You walk into the unknown, with your hands open, and your eyes wide. Because that's what women do. That's what you do. Even when no one sees. You survived. The baby is here. You are still breathing. But you are not the same. You've crossed a threshold. One few return from untouched. They will call you strong. They will say, "You did well." But they will not see what was broken in the process. Not the tears in your body. Not the ghosts in your sleep. Not the way your soul drifts when the room goes quiet. Your body is no longer your own. It is stitched, torn, swollen. You bleed. 4 days. Weeks. The blood doesn't alarm anyone. They say, "It's normal. It's good. It means you're healing." But you don't feel healed. You feel hollow. Every step aches. Every shift in bed stings. You walk slowly, like your bones have aged a decade overnight. Your breasts are full, heavy, sore. Sometimes the baby latches. Sometimes it doesn't. Either way, you leak. Through cloth, through linen, through shame. No one offers salve. No one asks if you're sore. They just hand you another chore. Another expectation. Because you lived. And so you must now serve. You are expected to bounce back. To be up and sweeping. To cook. To hold the baby while stirring the pot. To nurse in one arm and chop firewood with the other. There is no rest. No pause. No space to grieve the parts of you that were lost. And there are parts. Small, sacred parts. Joy, innocence, safety. Torn out in the moment the child entered. No one mentions those. You cry. Sometimes for no reason. Sometimes for every reason. But you hide it. Because tears make others uncomfortable. So you bite your lip. You press your sleeve to your mouth. You whisper lullabies with a voice shaking from exhaustion. The baby sleeps. But you don't. You listen to every breath. Every pause. Every cough. Afraid it will stop. Afraid it will echo silence again. There are nights you stare into the fire. Blank. Numb. Your body is here. But your spirit lingers back in that moment. The push. The tearing. The scream that never ended. They call it melancholy. They say, "She just needs time." But time doesn't always heal. Sometimes it just teaches you how to function while broken. Some women never fully return. They laugh less. They sleep less. They forget things. They stare into space and forget where they are. And no one connects the dots. No one says, "She gave too much. She carried too much. She lost a part of herself to bring life." Instead, they say, "She's different now. She's quiet now. She's strange." But not all scars are invisible. Your hips don't sit the same. Your belly never flattens. Your hair falls out in clumps. Your teeth loosen from lack of nutrients. And you learn to live with it. Because what choice do you have? You wrap cloth tighter. You chew slower. You rest only when no one's watching. And you whisper to yourself, "I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still." The baby grows. And you are praised. They say, "You're a good mother. Look how strong the child is." But no one praises your endurance. Your silent nights. Your aching joints. Your bleeding heart. Because motherhood here is not celebrated. It is assumed. It is required. It is unthanked. You return to the world slowly. The village. The routine. The watching eyes. Some women ask, "How was your birth?" You smile. You lie. You say, "It was fine." Because saying, "It broke me," is not allowed. There is no room for that kind of truth. And still, you do your best. You hold the child. You feed it. You wrap it close. You hum even when your throat burns. Because love exists. Even in exhaustion. Even in grief. You love fiercely, quietly, in ways no one records, in ways only the child will remember, in their bones, in their breath. With time, you rebuild. Slowly, softly, you walk longer. You sing louder. You laugh, once, then again. It surprises you. You sit in the sun and feel warmth not just on your skin, but in your chest. You still ache. You still remember. But something returns. Not who you were, but someone new. Someone wiser. Someone forged in fire and still, somehow, whole. You meet other women who have survived. You see it in their eyes. The quiet knowing. The shared sorrow. The unspoken bond. You don't need to speak. You just sit near them. Stitch. Rock. Share a piece of bread. And in that silence, you feel seen. And maybe, you start to feel healed. You teach the next girl, the one just starting to show. You place a hand on her shoulder. You tell her, breathe, eat when you can. Don't be ashamed to cry. You prepare her, not with fear, but with truth. Gentle, strong, rooted in survival. Because no one told you, but you will tell her. And one day, you sit beside your child, now walking, now laughing, and you feel something strange. Not just love, but pride. Not just relief, but power. You survived. You endured. You changed. Not broken, but rebuilt. And though no songs were written, no statues carved, no stories told in your name, you know, and that's enough. Because in this quiet, hard, aching world, you became a mother. And you are still here. They say that in a medieval village, for every child born, many never grew. You don't need scrolls or records to know this. You just look around. At the small cradles that stay empty. At the linen wraps stored away too soon. At the women who hum lullabies to the wind. Because in this world, infant death isn't an exception. It's an expectation. You're told not to grow too attached. Not until the baby is past the danger. But what danger? No one explains. No one knows. They just say, if the child lives through the first month, then maybe you can love it. So you rock your baby in silence, counting each day like a blessing, each breath like a miracle. And in the back of your mind, always, the fear. The causes are many, and always invisible. A cough that turns to stillness. A fever in the night. Milk that dries up too soon. A rash that spreads fast and takes everything with it. You don't know the words. Malnutrition, dehydration, infection. You just know what you see. A baby who once cried, and now doesn't. There's no healer to call. No medicine to give. Only herbs boiled in water. Whispered prayers. And hope that fades by the hour. You try everything. You rock. You sing. You wrap them tighter. You place them near the fire. You hold them all night and watch for movement. And sometimes, you see it. A twitch. A breath. You smile. And then it stops. When the child dies, no one screams. No one wails. It's not that they don't feel. It's that they've learned. Grief must be quiet. Quick. Unseen. There are more mouths to feed. More children to raise. More chores waiting. Even your tears must be rationed. You bury them fast. The ground is shallow. The linen wrap is plain. Sometimes a wooden marker is placed. Sometimes not. If the priest is available, you might get a blessing. If not, you whisper one yourself. You place a small token in their wrap, a carved bead, a feather, a thread from your dress, and then you walk away. But you never really leave. Part of you stays there, at that patch of earth, under that tree, by that stream. You go back. Not often, but when you do, you bring nothing. You say nothing. You just stand. And remember, they say you will forget. That time heals. That another child will fill the space. But it doesn't. Because children are not interchangeable. They are not placeholders. Each one is its own sun, its own season. And when one is gone, the weather never quite feels the same again. You keep things. A strand of hair, a cloth never washed, a name whispered only in your mind. You do not speak of them, because others have buried too. And silence is the only shared language for this kind of pain. But in the quiet moments, when the village sleeps, you hum their song again. For no one else. Only for them. Only for you. Other mothers understand. You see it in their faces. The long stare at a fire. The pause when a baby cries. The flinch at thunder. Sometimes they touch their belly, as if the child was still inside. And in that gesture, you see yourself. Some women have 10 children. Only 2 survive. They do not call it tragedy. They call it fate. God's will. A test. But you wonder, what if it didn't have to be? What if a clean blanket, a warm room, a bit of milk, could have saved them? You wonder. Then stop. Because wondering brings grief. And grief must stay buried. Like the child. You hold your next child closer. Watch them breathe. Watch them eat. Watch them live. But the fear never fully leaves. It walks beside you. Every day. Every night. You do not love less. You love sharper. More desperately. Because you know how quickly it can vanish. And that knowledge changes everything. There are nights you dream of the child who didn't make it. You see their face, though you never really saw it clearly. You imagine their voice, their laugh, what they might have become. And you wake up, tears soaking the straw mattress. You wipe them quickly, before anyone sees. Because the day waits. The chores wait. The grief must wait. And still, you go on. You raise the ones who lived. You braid their hair. You tell them stories. You warn them about rivers, fevers, and ghosts. You teach them strength, and sorrow, and silence. And maybe one day, when they are older, you will tell them they had a sibling. The child who never grew still lives inside you, in the way you hold others, in the lullabies you hum, in the way you flinch when a cough lingers too long. They are gone, but not lost, not to you, because in this world, where graves are shallow, and names are short-lived, you carry them, in your spine, in your breath, in your heart. They never grew, but you did. In this world of silence and survival, judgment and pain, there is something else. Something ancient, soft, unseen. Sisterhood, not always by blood, but by breath, by glance, by the way one woman quietly hands another a clean cloth, without asking questions. The midwife isn't the only one who shows up. There's a neighbor, an aunt, a friend from childhood. She doesn't knock. She just enters, pours water into the basin, stokes the fire, brings soup. She says little, maybe nothing at all, but her presence speaks louder than any prayer. You are not alone. They gather not in temples, but in kitchens, by wells, in herb gardens, in low whispers by candlelight. They share what they know, which roots ease nausea, which teas help milk flow, which plants to avoid when your belly tightens too soon. None of it is written. All of it is sacred. They hold your hand during labor. One presses a cloth to your forehead. Another massages your back. Another rocks beside you, humming low like a mother to the wind. They do not flinch at the blood, at the screaming, at the things men never see. They've seen it before. They'll see it again. And they stay. If the baby lives, they help swaddle it, teach you how to latch, tell you it's normal to cry, to bleed, to not feel anything at first. They feed you warm broth, comb your hair, hold your child when your arms are too weak. And when you can't sleep, they sit in the dark with you, just breathing, so you don't feel like the only soul left awake. If the baby dies, they are the first to weep, openly, loudly, for you, with you. When you cannot, they help you dig the grave. They sing the song. They place the flower. They wrap your arms in linen, and let you rest in their lap. Their grief does not solve yours, but it holds it, like a second womb. There are no therapists here, no support groups, only women, working, bleeding, birthing, surviving, and in between the chores, they make space, a shared mug of broth, a moment of laughter by the well, a knowing look when your body aches, tiny offerings, each one a thread, together a net. Sometimes you sit with them and say nothing, just listen, to stories that begin with, "My first child died in winter," or "I bled for 3 days and thought I'd go blind," or "He never cried, just looked up once, and went still." You think you're alone, until someone else whispers, "Me too," and that changes everything. These women are not saints. They are not flawless. They argue. They gossip. They tire. But when another woman cries out, they drop everything. Bread left half kneaded, chickens unplucked, children passed to neighbors. Because birth calls, and women answer. You learn to do the same. You wipe another's tears. You boil water without being asked. You sit beside someone and hold her hand. Through a pain you know too well, you become what others were for you, not because it's required, but because it's right, because it's survival, because one day you may need them again. The priest doesn't see this. The Lord of the land doesn't see this. Even the men in your own house don't always see it. But it is there, strong, unbroken, ancient, the circle of women, invisible to power, but powerful nonetheless. You teach the young girls, not through lessons, but through rhythm, how to steep the right herbs, how to listen to a baby's breath, how to hold grief in both hands, without letting it drown you. You teach with presence, with patience, with touch, and they learn. There is no monument for this, no song, no painting on the chapel wall, but it lives on, in the way you feed each other, carry each other, bury each other, in the way one woman cups another's chin and says, "You'll be okay," and means it. Years pass, children grow, wrinkles deepen, but the sisterhood stays. Some faces fade, others arrive, but the warmth remains, like coals under ash, never gone, just waiting to glow again. When the next birth shakes the walls and calls for help, you remember them, the hands that held yours, the songs they hummed, The silence they honored. And you become one of them. Not suddenly, but slowly, through every act of care, every night spent awake with another. You are no longer just a mother. You are a keeper of women, a bearer of pain, a teacher of resilience. In a world that tried to make you alone, you are not. You never were. Because when women stand together, there is no power greater. Not church, not king, not death, only life, held in gentle hands, and passed from one mother to the next. It is over now. The child is here. You are still breathing. The fire has burned low. The pain has passed. The blood has slowed. And in your arms, the reason for it all. Small, warm, real. You rock slowly, the cradle creaking beside you, your breath sinking with theirs. You are no longer pregnant, but you are forever changed. The women have left. The midwife has gone. Your husband sleeps nearby. And now, in the quiet, you are alone again. But not in the same way. There is something beside you. Someone. And that changes everything. 3:31 to 5:30. You touch your belly. It is soft now. Loose. Foreign. You feel the hollowness where fullness once was. The absence of movement. The silence inside. You miss it. Strangely. Even after all the pain. Because in that ache, you had purpose. No. You must learn a new one. Your body begins to heal. Slowly. Unevenly. You bleed. You sweat. You ache in places you didn't know could ache. Milk leaks. Stomach cramps. Your spine bends beneath the weight of new hours. And constant holding. Phil, you do it. Without question. Because that is what mothers do. Your nights are no longer yours. They belong to this child. Their breathing, their cries, their silences. You wake with every stir. You feed with sore hands. You hum with a voice that barely holds a tune. But it comforts them. And sometimes, it comforts you too. The seasons turn. The air shifts. Your baby opens their eyes longer. Grasps your finger. Smiles for the first time. Or maybe just gas. But you call it a smile. Because you need to. Because it gives you something soft to hold. After months of sharpness. Neighbors come. They coo. They comment. They say, "Such a strong child. Looks just like his father. Lucky to have made it." You smile. You nod. You say thank you. But inside, you wonder, what if I hadn't made it? Would they have said the same? Would they still have smiled? With me beneath the ground. And this child in someone else's arms? You bury those thoughts. You hold your baby tighter. You press your lips to their forehead. And you choose gratitude over fear. Because today, you are both alive. And that is rare. And that is enough. You begin to return to the world. The garden. The fire. The well. People forget that you just gave birth. They ask for bread. For help with sewing. For favors. You nod. Because saying no is a luxury. Because recovery is private. Invisible. Not honored. But you feel it in your bones. Every movement a reminder that you gave more than they know. And still, you love. Not because it's easy. Not because you were taught how. But because you must. Because this small person, who once grew inside you, now rests against your chest, trusting you with everything. And even when you're exhausted, even when you ache, you still choose to stay. That is love. The old kind. The kind without words. You watch them grow. First cries. First grasp. First nap in your arms. That lasts longer than you thought possible. And slowly, you begin to smile again. Not forced. Not tired. But real. It sneaks up on you. Like morning mist. Gentle. Warm. One day you catch your reflection. In water. In metal. In a dusty shard of mirror. And you see someone new. Not the girl who carried fear. Not the woman bent by pain. But someone fuller. Stronger. Wiser. You look tired. Yes. But also alive. The baby cries. You move without thinking. The rhythm is part of you now. Like breathing. Like praying. Like remembering. You wrap them close. Hold their tiny head. And you whisper things you never say aloud. I almost didn't make it. But I'm here. And so are you. And that is everything. Another season passes. You see a young girl in the village. Her hand resting on a belly just beginning to swell. You stop. You offer a cloth. A word. A smile. And in that moment, you pass the torch. Quietly. Without ceremony. As women have done. Since the beginning of time. Because this cycle never ends. There will always be another birth. Another cry. Another pain. Another miracle. And each time, a woman will stand in the center of it all. Bleeding. Breathing. Bringing life into a world that too often forgets to honor her. But you remember. Because you lived it. And that memory, that truth, will live on. In every woman who walks that path after you. In every child who rests in her arms. This is the story of birth, of survival, of motherhood, in its truest, rawest form. Not a song, not a statue, but a circle, unbroken, and forever turning.